Hey, welcome back to 65 Drums. My name is Justin Greenewald. Today we're doing another episode of Electronic Drum News, where I keep you guys up to date on everything happening in the world of e-drums. And today is all about Yamaha. They just announced 3 brand new mid-tier electronic drum sets. And they have a whole new naming scheme, and it looks like they're moving in a new direction as a company. And this is very interesting to see, because for the longest time, they just haven't been making any brand new electronic drums other than their beginner stuff back in 2018. They hadn't made anything for such a long time, and then earlier in 2020, they canceled 75% of all their electronic drum lines and made some electronic drum fans of Yamaha worried that they were sort of leaving the market. But thankfully, that appears to not be the case. They've been secretly working on a bunch of new electronic drums the entire time. So here are the 3 brand new drum sets. The first is the Yamaha DTX6K-X, the second is the Yamaha DTX6K-2X, and the third is the Yamaha DTX6K-3X. Those are selling for $1,000, $1,500, and $1,800 respectively. So as you can tell from the overall look, the overall pricing, and the overall design of the pads and everything, these drums are made from the ground up to compete against the Roland TD17 line of drums. We saw something very similar last generation when Yamaha had their DTX502 line of drums versus the Roland TD11 line of drums. Okay, so let's start off with the snare, because all 3 drum sets actually share the exact same snare. It's 8 inches across and has 3 zones. One for rim shot, one for rim click, and then of course the drum head zone. It's their textured silicone pad, which I really like, and was first introduced on the DTX900 series. It was brought to the 7 and 502 series as well. It's the best alternative to mesh out there. It's very quiet, and it has a unique, fun feel of its own. I really like it. The problem is that they shouldn't have put the 8-inch pad on the higher end 2 models, because for almost $2,000, you should be getting something that's 12 inches across. That's where the entire industry has gone. But now Yamaha has claimed the crown as making the smallest electronic drums for that amount of money now. So it's kind of unfortunate, but they're even leaning into that with their advertising, calling it a compact drum set. For the tom pads, the $1,000 and $1,500 drum sets are using their standard rubber pads, which are 7 inches across. We've seen these pads for years in different iterations since the 90s. Moving ahead to their $1,800 drum set, they're using 7-inch DTX silicone pads instead. For a while there, I know that their cheapest $1,000 drum set was designed to compete against the TD17KL, because look how similar they look standing next to each other. But I feel like Roland learned the hard way that nobody wanted a drum set with rubber tom pads, and so they canceled it and replaced it just a few weeks ago with the TD07KV. And I'm wondering if Yamaha is going to sell many of these, because they're going to be the last company for $1,000 selling a rubber tom pad drum set for $1,000 and $1,500. No one else does that except for them now. Unfortunately, Yamaha is the last company on earth not to have premium pads for the toms. Moving over to the cymbal department, that's where these first 2 drum sets really start to shine, because they have 13-inch 3-zone positional sensing ride cymbals. That is really nice to see. Now, positional sensing is not a brand new feature. We've seen it before in different Roland drum sets, but I believe they patented it for 20 years, because that's how long they last in the United States. So I'm guessing that's why no one else was doing it until very recently, because it was kind of locked away due to legal reasons. But now that that timer has obviously run out, because they're releasing a drum set with this feature, I'm gonna guess that more and more companies will start to incorporate that feature. Now, I don't think it's really necessary on a 13-inch ride cymbal, because it's a very small playing surface, but it's a nice capability to have in case you swap out that ride for a larger one down the road where it would make a bigger difference. Now, for the first drum set that costs $1,000, they're taking the hi-hats and crash cymbal from their DTX402 line and putting it on that drum set as like a cost-saving measure. But they disappear and are replaced with higher-end version pads on the $1,500 and $1,800 iterations. One really nice thing to see is the fact that they're actually including a hi-hat stand in the box, which is something I wish every company did. And on the $1,500 and $1,800 versions, you're getting 2 crash cymbals. One final thing I want to mention is the new drum rack. This is an interesting choice. It's an older style of drum rack that we used to see a lot in the electronic drum industry, especially with like the DTX Stream line of drums. But they've suddenly brought it back on these drum sets, which I really wasn't expecting, with the long like feet that sort of stick out. Some people will like that, some people won't. You'll probably see a varied amount of reactions out there. I'm just kind of surprised they brought it back. Now, all those pads we've already seen on a bunch of different drum sets over the years. Some of them have actually been around since like 2013 or 2012, with the exception of that brand new kick drum pad. I don't know a ton about it. All I know is that it's 7.5 inches across, which is nice to see. Usually kick drum pads like this from Roland, they're around 5 inches across. And I feel like that's a tad small on a almost $2,000 drum set. I'm glad to see this is a little bit bigger. They say it's a multi-layered surface. It's supposed to have a realistic feel, and I'll probably just trust them on that. It probably feels nice. I've liked some of the newer kick drum pads that Yamaha has been developing. They're moving away from just straight up regular rubber pads, except for when it comes to toms. Okay, so all that's well and good, but really the star of the show and what they're really promoting is their brand new module. This is the DTX Pro. I've been told the map price is gonna be somewhere around $700, which means that the actual street price might be somewhere around $500. That's a guess though, they haven't really listed it for sale separately yet, so that is yet to be determined for me. So I'm personally pretty excited about this brand new module. Here's a couple things that I like about it. First, it has individual inputs on the back. If one of your cables goes wrong, you can just replace that one cable. Really nice to see. Also, in reading the module, I found that you can use cable splitters with this. It's supported within the module, and they specifically mentioned that. You can take a pad and split it off into 2 one-zone pads, which means for some of you that really like huge drum sets, you can support a lot of drums with just this little drum module. The drum module comes with 400 voices, which means 400 sounds. It also comes with 40 kits pre-built, and of course you can sort of customize and make your own ones as well. Now, as far as the overall sound quality, it's a subjective thing. Some people will like it, some people won't. But the general consensus that I've been hearing so far in the Facebook groups, including my 65 Drums Facebook group, which I encourage you to join, has been very positive. People seem to like the sounds so far. Now, Yamaha has been playing it close to the vest, and all the videos they've been releasing, they've only shown off like maybe 2 or 3 of the kits. So we don't have a good feel for what all 40 kits will sound like, but from what we've been hearing so far, it seems pretty nice. I feel like the hi-hats were kind of thin on one of the kits I was hearing, but you can always tune that and make it sound a little more lower pitched. The overall detail of the sounds was very good. They sounded very punchy. They sounded very modern. It was a fresh sound module, and I think that it's pretty good so far. We'll have to wait and see what it sounds like when people get their hands on it. And remember, Yamaha is a mature electronic drum company. They've been doing this since the 80s, they know what they're doing, they're probably not going to make any giant mistakes that require 3 firmware patches to fix. The overall layout of the module seems fairly simple and easy to use. There are individual knobs for things like effects, compression, there's one just for the ambience, how much room noise you're going to hear, stuff like that that the average drummer will want to adjust to dial in the sound that they want to hear from their drum module. So from what I can tell so far, the module appears to be very promising. Okay, so we talked about all the individual components, but now let's take a step back and talk about the drum set line as a whole and whether or not it will be successful. All this will be conjecture. We don't really know until the sales figures come in and if people actually start buying the kits. But in my opinion, Yamaha is playing this very, very conservatively. I don't think that the company has realized the situation that they're in. They are now the underdog. They may not think so, but they are. In the minds of the average electronic drummer, when they think of electronic drums, they're thinking of Roland and Alesis, those 2 companies. Now, it's absolutely true that this company has been making oceans of electronic drums since the 80s. They're not new to this, they know exactly what they're doing, they have a lot of experience pricing things certain ways, and so they're making an educated guess that if they charge $1,000, $1,500, and $1,800, they're guessing that people will buy them, and they have a lot of experience to back that up. But the problem is, they've kind of been slowly stepping away from the electronic drum industry. And when they jump back in, I feel like they should be a little more aggressive to start out. Give people what they want and sort of over-deliver, not under-deliver. From what I can tell, these will be very nice drum sets that are great for people that want a compact kit. But the biggest flaw that I see is the fact that they're giving you an 8-inch snare on an $1,800 drum set. In today's day and age, that's just not going to cut it. That would cut it back in 2010, 2005. But in today's day and age, everyone expects a 12-inch snare on a drum set of that price range. Something 4 inches larger, and even a 14-inch snare if you buy the Alesis option. Now, I definitely believe that we can count on the quality of these pads. They will perform very well, and they'll probably have decent resale value too. But the thing is, it's kind of a small drum set, which is fine, but I feel like every drum set that they've just released is $100 to $200 too expensive. And some people in the groups might even argue that I'm being a little bit generous with that. These drum sets are a little bit overpriced for the size of the pads that they're offering. The strongest feature is the drum module, which appears to be excellent. We'll have to wait and see if that sways drummers enough to go and buy the smaller drum set and then maybe upgrade the pads later on. I just find it very interesting that until today, Roland was the company that always made the smallest drum pads for certain amounts of money. But now Yamaha has taken that crown. They are now charging $1,800 and giving you the smallest drum set that you can buy for that particular price range. Now that's not to say that I wouldn't buy any of the drums in this price range. That $1,000 kit is kind of interesting to me because I think the sound module is really strong. It's stronger than the TD07KV just from initial impressions. I'll have to see if those impressions hold or not when I actually play it. But the module appears to be stronger than the TD07KV module. And also the fact that you get a bell zone is enough to sway me towards that kit. Because that was the one thing that I was really missing when I was playing the TD07KV, and I mentioned that in my review. The lack of a bell zone, an essential part of a drum kit, whether or not it's electronic or acoustic, that missing component really dampened my enthusiasm about the kit in that certain way. So I would take this over the TD07KV, but not everyone would agree with me. Some people would rather have the Alesis Crimson, which is massive compared to either of those two kits. Or they would rather go with the Roland because they want the mesh tom pads and they want the Roland brand name. We'll have to see if the Yamaha brand name is as strong as it once was. If they've been, still retaining their followers even after a lot of radio silence over the years. Now they're going back in, they need to regain that brand recognition in the electronic drum community. They need to regain trust. They need to bring brand loyalty again. And so to do that, they should over-deliver. And these kits are not over-delivering. They're good enough kits. They're very high quality. They will perform very well. The module seems to be very nice, but it seems to lack a wow factor, at least to me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Have an amazing day, and especially thank you to the people on Patreon who helped make this video possible. By the way, for those of you wanting to know if I was gonna cover the Alesis kit that just came out with the Casio piano switches on the floor, no.